नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं अमिताभ and you are watching Ed Talks with Amitabh. This is an unusual day for Ed Talk series on Sunday 4 p.m. As you may recall, we are broadcasting it from Calcutta in India, and we were affected in terms of electric supply, in terms of internet connectivity. A lot of destruction has taken place, which has also affected our broadcast scheduled for 22nd Friday of this month. Our guest for the day, Mr. Ravi Sehegal, has been kind enough to accommodate and accept to be with us today, this Sunday, to carry on with the commitment that we have of bringing him live to all our audience and viewers. Mr. Ravi Sehegal, friends, I put it in my promos because that's how I see him and idealize him as well. You don't need to be a teacher in order to educate. There are certain lives, they themselves become a lesson. And Mr. Ravi Sehegal is one such personality. His journey has interesting anecdotes, which will be a lesson for all of us as viewers, which will take you through in this course, in this journey today. He is currently heading, and he's at an all India level, he's a chairperson of Engineering Exports Promotion Council, which actually amounts to almost about 25 to 26% of the export that India does, the engineering industries. And he is the chairman. And at the moment, a lot of planning, a lot of thinking. In fact, while I was trying to get him for our show, sometimes he was in some conference with some ministry or the other, trying to work out at a policy level. Friends, without any further gap between our viewers and Mr. Ravi Sehegal, who's also an avid Rotarian, who has also been awarded and recognized for his community service as Service Above Self Award by Rotary International in the year 2020. And friends, so much to learn from industry to community service to his life. It's going to be a great enriching experience. So I'm getting Mr. Ravi Sehegal on the screen from our virtual studio of the School Times. Namaskar, Ravi ji. Welcome to Ed Talks with Amitabh, and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for getting me here.
It's really a privilege and honor. We've got a lot of people here from the education sector, principals, educational promoters, CEO of the education magazines, and other fraternity people. Your presence brings us an industry perspective as well to us, besides your life and times. And knowing you being a fellow Rotarian as well, you have been an inspiration for all of us also. And today I would like people to learn from your journey and your life and times. And Raviji, in our we are in this lockdown, staying positive series. We are committed that till 30th of this month, in this fourth phase of lockdown, every alternate day we are going to bring a social influencer or an educational influencer, connecting people, helping them to stay positive. And our first question always is in the series, how are you keeping yourself positive during this lockdown times?
Well, thank you, Amitabh, and it's wonderful to be here. And it's a wonderful thing that you are doing in communicating with people, and especially those involved with education. These are tough times, as they say. They are volatile, challenging, and very adaptive times, though. I've taken the thing a little more positively, and I had to. The reason being because being part of the government agency, Engineering Export Promotion Council, I had to be in touch with the the industry, the exporters, to understand their problems. I had to convey these to the government, and then kind of be a conduit between the industry and exporters and the government, and to help government formulate all the policies. So whatever announcements that you've been hearing from, whether it is the Reserve Bank of India or from Finance Minister, Madam Nirmala Sitharamanji, I mean, these are all part of the things which most of our councils, this engineering is one of them. We constitute
Right.
25% of India's merchandise exports, but there is the leather,
Okay.
the shellac, the gems and jewelry, the carpets from Bhadoi. I mean, everyone had their issues. So I was quite busy involved in connecting to the rest of India, to the rest of
Right.
industries, not just engineering, all types of industry,
Okay.
including the
Right.
pharmaceuticals, in
Right.
Baddi and in Gujarat, in Mumbai, those who are very busy and very active. So I had to be involving myself more positively into communication, besides, of course, arranging webinars for our own fraternity, training
Right.
sessions. I mean,
Right.
these were learning times, let me tell you. I mean, and besides being challenging, since we
Right.
were at home, it gave me a lot of opportunity to connect with my own learning. And of course, I could spend a good lot of time with my wife, who used to complain that I traveled too much. Yeah,
I think that's the biggest gain for every person, every working
yes,
professional, that we could spend more time with our spouse and the family.
you're right.
Yes, it's so exciting to hear the way your work has been keeping you so occupied and busy throughout, and you were working on connecting not just your sector but also other industries as well. And I think the challenge is such that everyone has to come together and work out a common plan to revive. We're going to learn a lot of industry perspective and other things, but Raviji, in our show, we have teachers, educational leaders, common men, professionals, students. Everyone is a viewer in our show who would be going live as well as watching it at a later time in our YouTube and Facebook channels where it is live broadcasted. I would like to begin with your journey from your childhood. You are a successful entrepreneur. You're wearing multiple hats, being a community servant, working on being an avid Rotarian. You are past district governor of District 3291 and District 3292, and you have been. And right now also there are so many things. So when you were a child, जब आप छोटे थे, did you ever visualize that this is how your life is going to unfold when you grow up? Or what were your thoughts in the childhood? I would like people to see that what does it take in a making of an entrepreneur of your stature?
It's a long story, Amitabh, but I'll try to compress it. I mean,
Okay.
I was born in an army family. My father was in the Signal Corps, and so the discipline of the army was absolutely kept at home. In fact, if you've seen the Sound of Music, the movie, it sometimes reminds me of the disciplined dad, who would have everything with the timing and all that. So if it's like dinner time, 8 o'clock, the
Right.
whole family has to be on the table. If it's
Right.
morning, 5:30, everyone has to get up, go for a morning walk. I mean, those were
Absolutely.
the things that were built in our system. But
Right.
never did my dad know that he would get into business, or me, ever thought that I'll be into the business. And
Okay.
I was the fifth in the family after four sisters. So a
Right.
little pampered, and I mean, very happy family. But we had limited means,
Right.
because my dad was an engineer in the army, and
Okay.
later one of his friends, asked him to take a little sabbatical from the army, because he was a
Right.
chemical engineer, and come into Varanasi, where they were setting up a fertilizer plant in Sahupuri. This is the
Okay.
Jains group, the Times of India Jains group.
Right.
And
Right.
that's how my early childhood was in Varanasi, where
Okay.
I met an accident where I almost lost my life. I mean, in
Oh,
the
okay.
sense that I was a young, very naughty kid, I'm told, and I just came running in the kitchen. My mother was holding hot boiling milk, and it fell on
Oh,
me. And it was terrible, I mean, and I had all these dresses which were buttoned up, so it had to be cut up. And maybe the medical
okay.
facility or the doctor there was not good. He bandaged me, and when the bandage was opened, my skin came off, and I virtually,
Right.
was on my stomach for 6 months. I had to sleep
Okay.
in a mosquito net and be protected, and it was a miraculous thing because my whole back, veins, blood vessels, everything. That's what my father said, that that
Okay.
was the worst thing that they went through. But having
Okay.
said that, being a naughty child, somehow, in 1961,
Right.
Pandit Nehruji, he gave an order because there were five major steel plants in India, and
Okay.
they were being operated by overseas engineers. So Rourkela was run by the Germans. There were like
Okay.
5,000 Germans all together who were trying to
Right.
run the plant. The finance and the salaries were paid by the Indian government. So Nehruji
Right.
said that anyone in the army, they should go and help out. Engineers in the army to be deputed
Right.
to steel plants for 9 months, and 3 months in the civilian, 3 months in army, 9 months
Right.
in the plant. And if it's
Okay.
emergency, you have to go. So 61, my dad moved to Rourkela. We moved over there. 1962 was the China War. My dad was posted to Ladakh. So as emergency, army took him back. But we were
Right.
stationed in our,
Right.
civil township. So it was my mom bringing up the children together. My
Okay.
sisters actually became part mothers to me also. I mean, I
Okay.
had a very protected childhood.
Okay.
But as time moved on, I became a very shy child. You know,
Okay.
you wouldn't
Okay.
believe it. I mean, now
You
if
today
you
we
hear me
cannot imagine
talking,
that you were a shy child.
I was. I mean, when, in class, between class 6 and 10, I would speak a lot in school amongst friends and everything. But at home in front of my dad, I would hardly open my voice. There was one
Okay.
thing good he used to do is post dinner. He used to make
Right.
all the children sit. We had a nice lawn and garden, in the steel plant
Right.
bungalow,
Right.
and he would make every child speak that what did you like throughout the day, what made you angry, or what made you happy. You have to speak
Okay.
a few minutes on that every night.
Okay.
My sisters would rattle out quickly, and I would sit mum. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, sometimes I analyze, as a child, why I would do it. But
Right.
something, and my sisters used to get upset because they said we can't go to sleep unless you say something. So
Right.
having that as a background, I think, but in school, I used to vent out and take out my feelings and emotions.
Right.
And I was in the theater group, I was in the athletics, I used to play football and cricket for the school,
Right.
and as well as I was amongst the top three in the class. So,
Okay.
whichever way, we had a good schooling. I think that made a big difference.
Right.
This was St. Paul's School, Rourkela, and the school came up in front of us. Like I
Okay.
studied my kindergarten in Mount Carmel with the girls.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
like the boys section was separately there, but
Right.
the school was girls. And as soon as I was to go to class one, the new school came up, and we had the principal and the teachers from Ireland and Scotland, and some teachers from Canada, and
Okay.
along with the Indian teachers. So we had a very good schooling, and
Right.
they were so open. These teachers from Canada. I still remember one incident, and I would like to share with you. Like a
Please.
teacher comes in the afternoon, and as
Yeah.
it is heavy tiffin, summertime, everyone is in a sleepy mood, and he's going to talk about the civilization and history, and everyone was murmuring, sir, it's just too boring, and things like
Uh-huh.
that. So he
Okay.
says, why, you guys don't want to study? And he looked sternly, and we said, sir, no, we can discuss, but hardcore, study would be very difficult. He, kind of made a face and got out of the class. And then all of us got worried, that he's going to the principal, is going to make a complaint and all that. And he comes back after 5 minutes, but he has a guitar in his hand. So he
Okay.
says, oh, you guys are not in mood for study, so let's sing a song. And he
Okay.
strummed the guitar and he started singing a song, made us sing a song. And after 2 songs that we sang, he says, "Hey, you guys are awake. Now we go to studies." And that's what it is. He started with his same lecture and
Right,
same talk, which he wanted to teach, and he
right,
achieved it. Just by so these kind of teachers really built us up. And they put us into sports, they put us into activities and stuff like
right.
that. So that was the schooling, and it
Your
was
childhood
nine.
and schooling.
Pardon?
No, I was saying that is how your schooling in the childhood days
Yeah,
have
yeah.
progressed.
And the
And
thing
before
is,
we go further, Raviji, I would, as I said, and I am so true to my words, to my audience, already the learning is taking place. Friends, there are two things that struck me so far, what Raviji has shared with us so far in his life and times as a young child. There were difficult, tough times. He has met with that accident also, father in a transferable job. But then जो हम लोग कहते हैं कि there is something uh, there, everything is happening for reason, and I think those were the times which were preparing that character and the grit, the exposure and the versatility that Raviji was getting there. And then he talked about the importance of schooling and the education that is gone in, and I think the teachers who will be watching this and who are watching right now, there is a lesson already that how his teacher adapted to the frame of mind of the children and ensured that the learning does occur. Thank you so much for sharing such lovely experiences, Raviji. I'm sure a lot of audiences are going to, learn a lot from you. So now, this particular, are you also into music and all?
I enjoy listening. I wish I could sing. I wish I could learn, but I did start learning guitar when I was in the college, and I
Okay,
did play drums with the group in the first couple of years.
right,
But then I really couldn't concentrate, lack of time probably. But let me tell you, having said that, the other thing my dad was good in was tabla and harmonium,
okay,
and
okay,
yeah, and my mother used to play the dilruba, so and my sisters sing very well. So I was part of the
okay,
group singing, I mean, like a family like choir, but never,
okay,
individually could do. But I love music. I love this thing. I'd like to share another example of discipline, I mean,
yeah,
um, there was a time in school, like, I mean, our principals were so strict, and the teachers and the principal, on the way that you dress, on the way that your shoes must be shining and all that. And as you know, sometimes we are so lazy at home, we never polish, and we reach the school and you find that your shoes is dirty and the principal is going to put you off the line.
right,
And so, they would pluck these shoe flour, and then try to rub it to bring some shine and polish. And the
right,
pollen would stick, and the principal would still catch us. You not polished it at home, And the punishment was we had to sit in front of the teacher's room and
right,
polish the shoes ourselves. And if you do it once, you'd remember it for your lifetime and never forget to polish your shoes again at
okay,
home. So a tough father, army person, a tough father, Morris as a principal, along with the teachers. So it was a discipline, which really got inculcated, and that is something which I still think we at that time would have thought that how terrible, to be living in that disciplined atmosphere. But that really has built in some qualities which I myself admire, that it was only because of that that it has come in. So that is one. It was,
Thank you for
which is.
sharing that. Prince Raviji says that father at home and father in school were both quite a disciplinarian, and he shared the lovely experience that he has gone through. I think it's such a beauty that he has emphasized with so much of ease the importance of discipline in our life. Uh, and he said that this is what is making him what yeah, the personality and the character. Discipline has played an important role. Raviji, we have talked about discipline with the teachers, and you are not in a teaching profession. So, how important, according to you, would be discipline in school? What is your, if you have to recommend teachers about discipline in school or parents about discipline at home, what would be your recommendation?
Well, the first thing I think is the children must know the importance of time management. I think that is the most important, because one thing dad used to always say, that read comics, because we used to hide and read comics. He caught me a couple of times. I would love
Okay.
reading novels, a lot of novels. So he would never scold. He would say, you want to read, you read, but what is your homework, what is your target of study for the day, you finish it, and whatever spare time you spend on reading, I have no issues. So we really disciplined ourselves into saying that, okay, I'll do my homework in 2 hours, I'll do my other studies in 1 hour, and then I have 1 hour for my comics or books. Reading in front of my father doesn't matter. So that kind of, there's no hide and seek and there's no danda raj, but there is a logical raj. I mean, that you put the logic into the mind of the child, that why the time management and why the discipline. Dressing up, why do we
Right.
need an iron shirt, why do we need a clean shirt? Because whenever I wear a formal clean shirt, like today I'm speaking from home, I was in my t-shirt, and my wife said, why are you dressing up in a shirt? I said, well, I'm going in, a webinar, video conference, or whatever. So
Right. Right.
that's the habit which came from my childhood, I think, and
Absolutely.
we were made to have the iron and remove the crease. Don't wait for any dhobi to do it for you. If you think your shirt before going to school is not okay, 5 minutes, press it on, iron a little, you're fine. Your shoes are not shining, just rub a little. What it means is it takes few seconds, a few minutes, but then your personality changes and you feel good within. It's not, I'm not wearing this to show off to you, but
Right.
I'm doing this because I feel good, that I'm
Right.
presenting myself better. I think so. The
Absolutely.
only discipline way, but having said that, I would say that we must have a little bit of love and care. Means there
Right.
shouldn't be a punishment, but there should be a lesson if you break the discipline.
Right.
So, and that helps, because each time I got a lesson, whether it was the father telling us, to write 100 lines, that I will maintain silence in school and not shout and stuff like that,
Right.
or my dad,
Right.
making me do things like, I mean, he would say extra half an hour walk in the morning if you don't do this right.
Right.
So
Right.
there were punishments, but healthy punishments. So I
Healthy
think
punishment.
that's what I would think is advisable.
I can totally relate with you, Raviji. Your father was a army person. My father was an IPS officer, and I can relate with that subtle disciplining that goes in those kind of environments. And what you have beautifully said, and I would like to emphasize for our viewers, when we talk about discipline, Raviji's take in his explanation is that it is not about controlling, it is about reasoning. You let the child understand the reason, let the child understand why it is important to be done, why it needs to be followed. अगर बच्चे को वजह समझ में आएगी, they will have a greater self-discipline, and we will not require that kind of controlling. And I think that's what we need to work on. So that it is not about punishment; it is about converting these moments in an opportunity that it becomes a learning and a lesson, and that is the kind of discipline Raviji subscribes and communicates to us. Raviji, I understand that you are equally. How do you manage your time? You have your own industry, you have EPC responsibility. I know that for so many years, more than a decade, you were earlier chairperson at a state level, and then you took over the baton at a national level for this particular council. And so, managing your industry, then EPC work, and then you are involved so much, so aggressively in community service. You are a avid Rotarian. You have gone to take the responsibility as past district governor also of a Rotary district like Calcutta and Nepal. And how do you find the time for everything? हम लोग एक काम करते हैं और कहते हैं अरे बहुत busy है, time नहीं मिलता है. That's a general trend. Or even in these lockdown days, sitting at home, I say भाई बहुत busy हो गया, बहुत काम कर रहा हूँ. So how do you manage your time? How do you do this multitasking?
Amitabh, I think it's all about how you dissect. You could say a day has 24 hours, or you can multiply by 60 and say so many minutes, or so many
Right,
seconds. So
right,
I think, and then the basic thing that we were taught. Uh, I mean, and that I think more than in school, but when we got into the college and we had multifarious activities, and especially my early part of my career, what is to first, when you wake up in the morning, you thank God that you are awake and you are alive, because you live another day, which is a gift
right,
from God. And then after your morning, whatever rituals you have to do, I think we have to spend 10-15 minutes time on what is the agenda for the day. What is the priority in that? Like
right,
I may have a Rotary meeting somewhere or a project to visit. I may have factory certain issues. I may have certain customers whom I have to call or whom I have to address some quotations or whatever. So I make the list, complete list, and I used to do a different section in a sheet of page. So this
right,
is my business. This is EPC. This is Rotary. This is my personal agenda. This is my wife or family agenda. So what I mean is, you have to see someday your family becomes priority. It's a wedding anniversary or it's a
right,
birthday. So first things first. The other day, some customer, its business is, so always the rule of the game was family first, then your
okay,
own business because you have to make an earning, then your friends and other circles, and then your other commitments, so social commitments and all that. So there is one priority as per this strata. There is a priority as per that particular
right,
day. And once you start doing this exercise, it comes automatic. You don't have to think about it. And when I wake up, even before I go to brush my teeth or do anything else, I mean, it comes in my
right.
mind that, okay, today is Sunday. Today, Amitabh Mohan show. Today, I have to be ready at this time. And, it comes automatically flashing in my mind. And then I see what are the
Okay.
other priorities. That's how it is.
So Raviji's mantra, friends, for time management with so many important tasks that he has to do in a day, dissect the day, compartmentalize, know what you have to do, and then prioritize. And he has a very clear sequence: family first, because that is what everything you are doing for them. So with family first, you go on to your own work, your own earning, your own industry, and then you go on for your other commitments, and accordingly you segment and prioritize your day. So segment, plan, and prioritize is his mantra. And friends, I think Raviji's life is good enough. You are already experiencing the way he's talking about. He's so sorted, so clear in his thoughts. I think that gives him the strength to compartmentalize and prioritize at the same time. I would like to emphasize at this point of time, Raviji's life probably defines the MK. Raviji, a lot of people as a psychologist, as a trainer, my MKFs are popular. That is called Mohan Ka Funda, and I think your life defines one and justifies one MKF, and that is only busy person has time for work. And Raviji, when it comes, because he's so busy, if you give him a genuine work and he finds a reason in it, he is able to put him in his priority list and it gets done there. And I think we all need to learn a lot from that. Friends, you're watching Ed Talks with Amitabh, and we are having our guest, Mr. Ravi Sehegal, Chairman, Engineering Export Export Promotion Council. Raviji, with your permission, we have viewers have started joining us also live. Of course, a lot of people will see it live. A lot of people will see it at a later time at their convenience. Do I have your permission to encourage audience to ask if they have anything they would like to ask?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Friends, feel free if you want to make an inquiry, be it social work, be it balancing life, be it commitment to society, be it managing industry. You can ask any question that is coming to your mind. Of course, we'll try and incorporate as many we will be in the given time. Ravi, coming here at the moment, we are talking about, I think your personal life, when we were doing this software testing, when we had to postpone the program because of the cyclone and other reason, internet connectivity. That day you mentioned something, and I would like to know a little more about it. Every aspect of your life has been a lesson that you have taken it for yourself, and that's how you have grown on that. I think you're even the first there are a lot of firsts that you were talking about. First flight, first trip outside India, your first assignment outside India. Can you throw a little light on us that what kind of frame of mind and how you manage yourself in those segments?
Okay, so let me start with BHU, Banaras Hindu University, if you don't mind. I mean,
Friends, Ravi ji comes from Shiv Ki Nagari, Varanasi, where he's done his education from ITBHU. He's done his engineering from there, and they're gone on for higher education.
so in BHU, we had various, activities and other things. So from there, I learned to meet and mix and be with the people. I still remember, that when we finished our theory exams, in final year, fifth year, and there were 2 weeks for the practicals and lab and other things. And my father sent a telegram, and of course a trunk call saying that some customers are coming. He, from being an army man to an engineer to working in a private, plant, fertilizer plant, to coming to Rourkela steel plant. When he retired, he just was trying to represent and do something in engineering, and that is a time when some business contacts from USA, courtesy my sister, landed. So
Okay.
a few customers were to come, and he sent an SOS, saying that there are 4 American customers, I mean, like coming as a team, and they will be with me. It will be very difficult for me to handle all of them. I have to take them to some of the factories to show them what type of products we can sell to them. And can you come and join me? Now that was a tough task. You imagine in a college. So Dr. Subbarao, who was the HOD of electrical department, and I
Okay.
had the guts and I showed him. He was quite happy. He says, go help your father, as long as you come back at least 2, 3 days before the practicals and lab, and you don't have to study, because I had been working with him on the lab on a power network grid for the Uttar Pradesh government, AC network
Right.
analyzer.
Right.
So he knew that for me it wouldn't have been a difficult thing. So, but he said on one condition, that when you come back, you will give me 2 weeks of your time. And I said, for what?
Okay.
He said the same lab and the AC network analyzer that you have been working on as your practical of the final year, is a
Right.
2 year project. And I will make 2 persons of the next year stay back. You have to train them for every aspect
Okay.
of this, So
Okay.
10 days to 2 weeks. I said, okay, I mean, fine. And I did go back. I went around with my father, and I came back, and then I worked after the lab tests and all that. I worked with the HOD of our department, and he had arranged for my fooding. The hostel room was there, but the canteens were closed because every student had gone back. But he arranged my special fooding, and when everything was completed in 10 days' time, he called me to his office, and he said, he gave me a nice letter saying that you worked with us for 10 days on this project, and I would like to thank you for this. And here's a small envelope for you. So I thought it's a
Okay.
copy of the letter he was reading out. So
Right.
he said, won't you look inside? And I said, sure. I opened, there were crisp 10 100 rupee notes.
Okay.
Imagine in 1978, 1,000 rupees was like a huge
Huge.
sum. And he
Yeah.
said, "This is your first earning, son. You go and face the world."
Okay.
That I think was the most touching thing. I mean, like to get the first fees from your alma mater and the
Right.
confidence that this Dr. Subbarao had. And
Right.
imagine I was all set to go to US for my MS at that time. I had
Okay.
no, you asked me how I became an entrepreneur. I had
Right.
no vision of being an entrepreneur. I was to go and study MS in electrical and electronics at that time because it was very, gaining importance and it was very important. But then when I came back and dad said we have a lot of orders, there was so much to do. He said, stay back for 6 months with me. And January, you can join the winter course rather than the fall. So I
Okay.
wrote to Chicago, the Urbana, Champaign College, University, and they agreed. But that 6 months never came because I found that if I could work with my father in the morning and do
Yeah.
my evening classes, at St. Xavier's College and keep
Right.
my studies also at it, I think both work together and things change. So these are the things and decisions that builds an entrepreneur. You
Yeah.
have to make certain decisions. It was tough for me, because I was all set. I had three of my sisters in US. They were waiting for me that you're going to be coming and being
Right.
here.
Right.
And my ideas were to go and settle there too, because a lot of my friends did go. But it was a tough decision. But I think looking in hindsight, it was a wise decision.
It was a
Stayed
wise
back
decision.
here and been here. Then coming to the point that you were saying.
Raviji, before you go further, I would like, for my audience benefit, since Raviji just now said, making of an entrepreneur, life gives you a lot of opportunities where you have to take important decisions. And sometimes even a decision in those times, getting your admission and everything ready for a foreign education in one of the world's top university, and then taking a decision to stay on, it is, one should not always be looking at the name and the brand. There's a lot of logic that has to go in behind your decision, and there has to be a long-term perspective. Just because there is a university abroad cannot be a reason for you to be going there. And in the given the lockdown condition, a lot of scenarios are going to change. A lot of you who were planning to go for your foreign education, a lot of contexts are going to change. Don't be disheartened. You have a role model who had no such problems, that there was no lockdown, there was no corona at that point of time, but he took a decision to stay on in his own context and made it big in life. So have a belief in your decision making ability. Raviji.
Now, talking about going overseas, so 1978 is when I joined my father, in July. And first year, of course, I was working with him, learning and everything. It was the same year, I think, in winter time that I planned to go to US, and I had a cousin sister in Abu Dhabi, and she said, "Why don't you meet us also on the way?" So I had a nice fancy trip designed, myself to go to Middle East and then touch a little bit of Europe and then go to US. But the experience was immense. It was wonderful. But I still remember when I went to US, I mean, there were a lot of things you have to learn, I mean, over there,
Right.
including how to protect your own self, how to, everybody has a self right, even if you're a
Right.
worker or a student or a child, you have those
Right.
rights and you are told and you made to understand about it, which in India sometimes we neglect. We find the children are too soft or
Too soft.
too,
Yes.
overbearing, like they kind of
Right.
accept anything given to them. But
Right.
in US they ask, and I would find it very funny when my children, my wife, sister's kids used to ask too many questions, and I would wonder. And I also remember that in the year 1978, it was the year when Iran had some issues with US.
Right. Okay.
And I was traveling from New York to Buffalo, because my sister,
Okay.
one of them stayed in New Jersey near Manhattan, and another
Okay.
one stayed near Buffalo. So I took the Greyhound bus, and as soon as I reached the bus stand in Buffalo, I'm surrounded by four security guards, and those are all over 6 feet tall with the guns and everything. And I got a shock of my life, and they said freeze, and of course I froze. I mean, I would have frozen anyway. So then they asked me about my identity card, and normally you carry your passport wherever you travel, but it was in my rucksack bag. So when I tried to
Okay.
open the rucksack bag, they just pulled their guns. They said, "No, you don't open," because they thought I might be pulling out a weapon from that bag. And
Right.
then they took it out. I was put through a face check because I had my beard from my college days. So I
Okay.
was mistaken for an Iranian, trying to flee
Okay.
America through Buffalo
Okay.
because that has a Canada, border with Canada and all that. So
Right.
what I mean is, these overseas travels exposed me to all kinds of people, the culture, the habit, and of course to protect my own self, and that is one of the main things. And
Right.
then I had the opportunity to work in Saudi Arabia for a year and a half, because in 1981, see,
Okay.
when you're working with your family business and you are limited to what you are doing, then in
Right.
1981 came the biggest slump of America. Just like in 2008, we had the Lehman Brothers crash, the economy collapsed, just like it's collapsing now because of COVID.
Right.
So that is when my parents, and they thought probably they made a mistake in putting me in the family business, and now the business in US is collapsing. So what's my son going to do? And they had all
Right.
these thoughts. So having said this, I mean, they made me look into other opportunities of what I could do, and that is when I traveled to Middle East. And when I traveled
Okay.
to Riyadh, they said, "Why don't you run our factory for us? You are an engineer." By the time I had, this was, I think, in 1981. So I had finished my evening management classes. So I had
Right.
management degree. So they said, "You control us." To understand Middle East, I decided to go off from my dad's business for 6 months and be there for 6 months. I landed up
Right.
staying much more just to understand the culture, the habits, and business working of the Middle East.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it was tough because 100 Indian laborers, and there were some of these, supervisors all from Palestine and Syria and all that, managers from Lebanon and Syria and Jordan, and the owners are half Saudi, half Jordanians.
Right.
So what I found there was the mini India, because we had 10 houses where the labor were put in the camp. A
Right.
Kerala house, a Gujarat house, a Rajasthan house, and everyone. Each one of them were fighting amongst themselves, whether it was for food, the type of food that will be made in the kitchen or the
Right.
canteen, or the kind of the work responsibilities or living. But when it
Right.
came to a supervisor, who would complain against them, they would all get together. So I
Right.
was basically managing a mini India, I mean, and that gave me a lot of experience because there was no technical problem in the factory, but it was not successful because of its
Right.
administrative issues. And I
Okay.
found they were treating the Indians like animals, giving
Okay.
them frozen food which was cooked, herding them in trucks to take them to the factory, whether it was the middle of heat and summer and all that. So I gave those people life, and they thought I'm God. I mean, uh, so that was a major experience which made me realize that give human beings the dignity that they deserve, and then you will get the best out of them. And the management saw it for themselves that how it could be done. I thought that was a major lesson that I learned.
That's succinctly mentioned. Friends, listening to Ravi ji and his life and times, so many experiences in his life, and there are two thoughts which are coming in my mind at the moment listening to him. One is, every time Raviji's life had so many situations, and in none of the situation, the way he shared it, the whole story, in none of the situation at any point of time he thought, "Why is this happening to me?" He always approached it with optimism and made something out of that situation that he experienced, and things kept on just working for him and his acquired repertoire of experience. And also I feel that the traveling has given him so much of diverse exposure that has brought so much of change in his personality, from being a shy individual to being such an enterprising individual who took the risk and lived a life with all optimism and positivity. This is Amitabh Mohan resuming the broadcast, and you are watching Ed Talks with Amitabh, featuring Mr. Ravi Sehegal, Chairman, EEPC India. Ravi ji, my apologies for all the disruptions. I think the signals got disrupted, and you tried your best at your end to sort this out. Do I have your permission to resume our?
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing can be done once the net is off,
And now, we were, just to recap and connect from where we were before we got disrupted. Friends, you were watching Mr. Ravi Sehegal and listening to his life and times. A lot of challenges in the how he has matured, and he's converted every situation into an opportunity, and how he has morphed into, from a cocoon to a butterfly, from being a shy youngster to such a prolific entrepreneur and such a successful leader in today's time. And that's what we have talked today. I promise you that these two broadcasts we are going to connect and edit and put it together, and at a later stage repost it for people to see it in continuity as well. Raviji, here when we got disrupted, I was, when you talked about your decision making as an important key parameter for being an entrepreneur, and you took right decisions at important, crucial times in life. I would like from here, in this lockdown times, COVID, we don't know what will happen. Economy is taking a hit. Employment situation is becoming grim. And just today morning, I was in a webinar as a keynote speaker, and there was a question posed also, was what will happen for the placement in engineering colleges, because it was a seminar and you being part of chairman of engineering exports promotion council, a lot of engineering colleges youngsters are looking for their hope in engineering industries in times to come. So what do you see as an employment scenario in times to come, not just in the engineering context, even in general at large?
Well, thanks, Amitabh. Glad that we are back. The issue is that, yes, currently everything is very disturbed because of the COVID factor and because of the lockdown. And a lot of industry is getting hit, and especially the MSME sector, the micro, small, and medium scale sector units, because of the cash flow, because of the orders, getting disrupted, and because of the logistics, which are not fully in place. Now, having said that, let me tell you, the scope for India, where engineering is concerned, goes far above what is the current situation for various reasons. I mean, number one is India's economy, as you know, is strongly dependent on service sector, and the manufacturing sector is quite stagnant. I mean, doesn't contribute more than 13% of the total sector. Now, in order to really be, a global player, India has to move into the manufacturing sector. So when Modi ji, even before this Corona and COVID thing happened, he took a pledge that we will make our economy into a $5 trillion economy. Out of this,
Right.
1 trillion had to be in terms of manufacturing and 1 trillion
Okay.
in terms of exports of all types, you know. So when we
Okay.
say
Okay.
that we are talking of a 1 trillion manufacturing, that means we have to really scale it up, you know, at least 4 times. And that too, the target has been set for 4 years. I mean, it's not a long time from now. But what has
Right.
happened now with this COVID happening, there's a lot of backlash on China. And a lot of industries are
Right.
trying to move their manufacturing base from China into India or any other country for that matter.
Right.
Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, they are fast movers. You know, they have attracted quite a bit.
Right.
But let me tell you,
Okay.
in order for a country to be like the manufacturing hub for the world, like China is, you
Right.
must have a strong
Right.
domestic consumption as well, which these countries like Vietnam and Cambodia don't have. So
They
India
don't have.
stands
Yeah.
to gain in the long run. Over the last 1 month, the lot of exchanges that we had with the government was on how to make situation viable for bringing these industries into India. What are the changes
Right.
in labor laws? What are the changes in electric rates and everything else, land rules? And these are being worked out on such a fast track that you will see that industry and manufacturing is going to double in the next 2 years. And having
Okay.
said this, although the current scenario shows that what am I going to do, you know, getting into engineering or for that matter, science or the stream which is used for these industries.
Right.
The truth is, this is something that is going to prevail. The service sector will remain quite stagnant, you know, because
Okay.
when we say we'll go into 1 trillion export, the
Right.
service sector export will move from 330 billion to 400 billion, but the
Okay.
manufacturing sector will move from 330 billion to 600 billion. So you
Okay.
see, the IT sector will have fewer people working, and manufacturing will have more people working. And so it's time for people to start thinking on lines of graduating in engineering or related subjects, which will be useful in industry.
That's good news for all the engineering colleges and all the engineering students that market is only going to look optimistic rather than grim despite all the challenges that we are facing in the current time. So there's no need to be very really worried about. And as Raviji said that engineering sector is only going to multiply and boom in times to come. Given the scenario, there's an opportunity for engineering sector which is opening even more. So engineering colleges, don't worry. What about other sectors, Raviji? Like you are interacting with the other bodies and associations as well. So what do you think is going to be the employment scenario for other segments?
Let me tell you primarily what is happening. All areas which are related to health, which are related to agriculture, and which are related to like pharmacy, pharmaceutical medicines, even naturotherapy and nature cure and yoga and things like that. All these, businesses related to these are definitely going to see a huge boom. You know, I mean, that's going to
Right.
happen. And having said this, the consumer goods, I mean, will also take off in a different level, and once we
Right.
have that, what is going to happen, what is known as engineering 4.0, this is the
Right.
fourth level of engineering which needs a lot of robotics, automation, and mechanizations of processes,
Okay.
so a lot of these
Right.
industry, even the agriculture, food products, I mean,
Okay.
we are way backward. We were so far ahead of many countries who have overtaken us just because they went into mechanization of everything. Like, we don't have a
Right.
proper cold chain of food. If you go to any stores, whether in Dubai or in US or Europe, you
Right.
find that the food is sold from stores in such a good condition as from
Right.
farm fresh, which in India, you go to Spencer's, I mean, it's available, but it's not that fresh or attractive for you to buy because the cold chain and the methods are not in place. And they have to start from the farm level. So you can't blame the shop retailer here. So those are systems which Modi ji is really focusing on. We can do it and we should do it, you know.
That's a great news. I think though we may face a challenge momentarily because of the lockdown and industries, everything being on a standstill, but then we're hearing you. I see a lot of hope and optimism the way things are going to progress. I think that the Indian economy, that a lot of people are saying, is only going to go for better days if everything is handled in the right context and right perspective.
Sure.
All this talk about China's loss is India's gain. Do you think there's a lot of substance to it?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I'm not saying it from the perspective and point of view of China being the reason for the start of COVID, as people are, you know, talking about and we believe. It's from the simple fact that, you know, last year, where it started with the US-China trade war, and when China started pulling stops and taking revenge, you know, on various trade issues, one could realize that China is such a force whom you can never beat, you know, so you can't be on the wrong side, and so you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And for that reason, people, you know, started thinking that let's have an alternate, larger manufacturing base. And so a lot of people that we have spoken to in Germany, in England, in Belgium, France, in US, Canada, they're all of the belief that if we were buying 70% of our needs from China, they will bring it down to 30%. China won't, they'll still buy from China. There's no stopping China from selling, but they will not try to exceed 30 to 40% buying from China. So let me tell you, if they say even 10% of the production of all items come to India, that will be doubling India's current production and export turnovers, you know. So you can imagine.
It is to that magnitude?
Yeah, with such a small chote tukde se China ka, India double ho sakta hai. That is the kind of potential. And I see absolutely. The only thing is we have to work very quickly on bureaucracy, the laws, the land, labor, power, and all these structures. And infrastructure has to be definitely improved. We need more ports, better roads, better trains to take the goods, you know, because railways, and Piyush ji is doing a good job, the Commerce and Industry Minister, who is also the Railway Minister. He's wanting now that instead of using the road to transfer containers and goods from inland points to the port, focus on railways. And a lot of changes need to be done, which they are working on.
That's a great news. I think it's really nice hearing these things, because you are part of so many discussions at the policy level as well, and we are getting a lovely insight into the optimism that one can have from these insights from Mr. Ravi Sehegal. Friends, listening to Ravi ji, it is very clear, अच्छे दिन अभी भी आएंगे. It's just that rep tapeism and the bureaucracy has to take a backseat, and the government machinery has to be a quick decision maker. They have to make fast moves so that we can capitalize on the opportunity time is unfolding. You know, Raviji's life and times in his growing up years, he was looking at everything as an opportunity. Even today, listening to him about today's context, I only see optimism, and that is what I think is one of the very, very major attribute that an entrepreneur has to have, is an attitude of optimism, because if you have hope, only then you can be an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you will not take your way forward.
Not just optimism, Amitabh, it's persistence. You know, also because you will have so many, you know, like barriers and stoppages. Don't lose heart, just keep on, you know, and you will make the way, you know.
This brings me, Raviji, just before the lockdown took place, Modi government has been talking and emphasizing on Make in India. Startup was a buzzword around. So a lot of people who got into this startup scenario at the moment, a lot of people must have got a jerk to their ventures. And so is it, what's going to be entrepreneurship like and startup scenario post COVID and post lockdown?
See, those startups, if you see which were digitally monitored, controlled, are gaining. I mean, of course, tourism and hotels took a beating, but any startup which had, I mean, I know of a friend whose son, I mean, refused to join the family business. And he said, I'm going to do a startup.
Okay.
And all the parts that are required for the industry, I'm going to put them online and make it as a one window shop. It's like, take the example of a foundry or a forging shop, we buy nuts and bolts from somewhere, we buy a compressor from somewhere else. If a pipe leaks, we go somewhere else for buying a pipe. So like there are thousands and thousands of these nitty gritty small components, which we go to different shops, different places, different buyers to buy. He said, I'm going to put everything online. I'm going to get all these buyers to give me at a certain rate, which I can give at the best prices to my clients. And then I'm going to have a system of logistics for delivery, because some of these manufacturers are based in North, some in West, South, wherever. So he'll link up in such a way that anything that you order today, within 48 hours, it's on the way. And, within 3 days, I mean, depending on urgency, so within 3 to 5 days, you have it. In some cases, even next day delivery, So he set this up maybe 2-3 years back when the startup craze was still very strong, and had just gotten into. And he was a young guy, and we thought, and the family thought, oh, he's making a mistake. I mean, things look rosy, but that's not easy. And you wouldn't believe it, but in these COVID times, he has marketed huge quantities of all the startup equipments for a post-COVID industry. For example, the temperature measure, the sanitizers, the spraying, the coveralls, the gloves, masks, whatever, you name it. And that's also for starting the industry. You don't have shops open. So he is like working 18 hours a day now, trying to manage and keep up the supplies, not just here, but all over India. So you see, there are these bright things, and they will be working. I mean, some of these startups did have a setback because of logistics mostly, but I'm sure they'll catch up. That's the way it's going to be.
Fantastic. Friends, listening to Ravi ji, I realized that entrepreneurship is about converting an idea and looking into the right time and the opportunity. Entrepreneurs will be there, startups will be there, the context will change, maybe areas of enterprise may change because the needs have changed. So, but then maybe some people who have started their startups earlier, because of the change in context, some startups may have a setback, but then there are going to be a lot more new areas and arenas. So entrepreneurs, अगर आपके अंदर वो enterprise का कीड़ा है, तो उसको पनपने दें. अभी भी बहुत मौके हैं, and आपके अंदर का entrepreneur is going to find a lot of opportunity, because these times is when the entrepreneurs show the way to the rest of the people. इस समय जब employment की crisis आएगी, entrepreneurs are the people who are going to create employment for many others who cannot think like they can. So it's time for enterprise and entrepreneurship to be active and alive. And there are a lot more opportunities, as Ravi ji pointed out. The context may change, new areas will emerge, and there will be a lot of opportunity there. Ravi ji, this brings me to another dimension of your life, that is the social work. You have been, I think बहुत सारे लोगों को शायद आप सिर्फ रोटेरियन और कम्युनिटी सर्विस वाले लगते होंगे, हो सकता है लोगों को पता भी ना हो कि आप इंडस्ट्री में इतना सारा काम कर रहे हैं, because your presence in social sector is so very dominant. Your Rotary presence, your community service influence. In fact, Rotary International has gone on to recognize it by its kind of a lifetime achievement award in Rotary International context. Service above self award has been bestowed on you. So, and I know that you are working on, whether it was polio project, you were involved with it, whether it was literacy project, you've been involved with it. And lately, I understand that your latest passion is something which is very, very relevant, is WASH project. That is,
Rotary has done the sanitary mission, actually, sanitary mission, which
right.
is there. Yeah.
So can you throw light on your life and what projects are coming up that you are involved with?
So the thing is, I never knew, what Rotary is all about. But having said that, I've had a lot of these small things we did as students, whether in school or in college, or in NCC, that when I was in BHU. So we used to do, different kind of camps and go to visit people or villages and do this. But when I was busy with my profession, and let me tell you, when you are young and starting and you are putting so much of time in your work and business, you don't have time to think about this. But I was fortunate to get a very senior Rotarian, Mr. Kejriwal, who really, I used to meet him and interact with him on the basis of industry and EEPC, Engineering Export Promotion Council, because he was the regional chairman at that time. And he loved interacting with me, discussing issues, and we used to work together. And that's how I actually, got close to him. And one day he said, "Let me take you for a meeting." I said, "Which meeting?" He says, "Rotary meeting, but don't worry, you just come." And I thought it's something very big. And, I said, "I'm already busy. Where's the time for all this?" But he took me to a nice evening tea party, where you eat and you have snacks and tea and stuff like that. And then a good speaker talks about some social subject, So like if one topic was on polio, the other day was an interesting topic on management. And so once a week, the meetings where I didn't know anything about the social service part of it. So I started enjoying the meeting. Once 4 or 5 such meetings went by, and I started missing, because he used to call me every Saturday morning that 4:30, remember and come to HHI and come for the meeting. This day he didn't call, and so I called him. I said, "What happened? No meeting today?" He said, "No. I was waiting for you to call me. So I wanted to see whether the interest has gone into you. Matlab wo keeda tumhare andar gaya ki nahi, because I was just testing after 4 or 5 such meetings whether you really are interested and keen." And I said, "Yes, I am. If for nothing, it was a stress buster, I mean, because you're off your profession, you're off your daily routine, and you go and meet people from different profession. And you're talking on subjects which are not something which you talk the whole week. So it's a relaxation. That's how it started. But then what happened was, since our Rotary Club of Belur had a lot of projects going on, and we used to have overseas visitors from England and US, Canada, Germany. So once this elderly couple, Victor Collar, from UK, he comes with his wife, and they had donated money for some tube wells. We had put in some money, they had donated, Rotary Foundation supported. So he had come to inaugurate and make a report on this. And I'm talking of way back when, in 1988, when that such huge video camera you had to keep on your shoulder. And so he had brought that video camera with him. And he said, he found a very good companion in me. And he says, "Young guy, I mean, he can do it." So, and I used to be with Mr. Kejriwal. So when we went to the village to inaugurate this project and program, and it was his first visit to an Indian village. And he was astounded in the sense, the level of poverty, and yet the humbleness of the people around, and the love that they showed to the Rotarians, the flower garlands and everything. So he said, "Ravi, you handle the camera and you put it on your shoulder." And he showed me how to do the video shooting. And then he said, "Since I'm going to be putting it, and showing it to all my friends in England, can you put a commentary while you are shooting?" because I wouldn't understand half the things, the customs, what is happening, why they are putting the red dot on the forehead, and also take me into a hut and show me how they live, how they eat, how they go around doing things. And believe it or not, I did that. And while I was shooting, that was the first time in my life I was doing it. And I was giving a running commentary, and I was actually seeing things through the lens, the house, the way the people are living, the simplicity, yet the love that they showed, the kind of food and snacks they had prepared for us, even being in a much, difficult situation, and all the kind of rituals that went, the coconut breaking on the tube well and stuff like that, and the conch shells, the singing of the songs, everything. And I gave the whole commentary. Believe it or not, at the end of the whole video, and then when I saw it again, when Victor Collar showed the whole thing again, to me, it hit me, I mean, in the sense, I said I did that out of an academic or a kind of other interest, but see that the needs of the people are so much. And I started going into villages every Sunday mostly. We had either programs there or for future programs. And that really got into me. And then I said, I must get involved in this. And then I think I really became an active Rotarian, as you say, and involved in the service projects. Today, there were a lot of things that happened, but just for today, let me tell you, India has declared this schemes for a clean India, what is that? The Jal Jeevan, Abhiyan, which is there, and also the sanitary projects which are going to be in India. So every household, every village will get a toilet. The ODF Plus scheme will ensure that even the old toilets which were made, defunct, not in use, will be used. Water will be provided to every house. Pipeline will be drawn. And not only water, it has to be a reliable, potable water, and 55 liters per person per day, because that they have found is the average consumption. So all these things, and we are going to adopt villages, we are going to do these projects, and then we are going to provide community toilets wherever required, household toilets, household taps, har ghar nal se jal. That is the motto, and we have to see a healthy India. Yes. And this is my passion now, that water, sanitation for all. Because they say education is good, we must have, and literacy is a very good project. But if you don't have health as the basic requirement for the child, the education doesn't come in automatically. So that is the basics that I'm going to be working on.
It's so very interesting, and a coincidence as well. Probably Rotary has that inside, because there are people, well-meaning people who are involved with selfless motive. This wash, health, hygiene, the project which has come up, probably it wouldn't have come at a more opportune time. I think what we are right now facing also has this wash, health, hygiene as the need of the hour as well. And I think Rotary has taken those steps. Even right now, I understand Rotary has made a major contribution also in this lockdown time.
Correct. Amitabh, what has happened is, for the last 4 or 5 years, we have been pursuing this WASH program, the water, sanitation and hygiene. And if water, sanitation, hygiene in school, the short form is WINS. So we've been doing that. We've been adopting schools. The basic thing and the most important thing that we do in the WINS program is teach the children to wash their hands for 20 seconds. We have been doing it for the last 4 to 5 years. And, the habit behavioral change is what we focused on, monitoring and training. You wouldn't believe, but we have reports now from different parts of India that these children are training the villagers and their parents and their friends and their siblings that we have learned how to wash hands. For COVID, you have to do this. It is a moment of pride. I felt so happy. that at least these last 4 5 years, whatever we did, at least this portion has really played out in a big way in COVID. And even now, we've done various projects in terms of providing sanitation gear, the masks and coveralls, ventilators. We provided food. We did an estimate. The total project that Rotary has done all over India has exceeded 100 crores now, in just these 2 months.
I think that's the kind of level of commitment Rotary has and takes up the cause. And it's so heartening to hear that the WASH, the foresight in the focus area of health, hygiene, and WASH, the youngsters who have been trained by Rotary are now becoming, the knowledge and information.
They are trained, yes.
They're trained, and I think that is what is the need of the hour as well. And Rotary has created an impact with people like you who are providing that spearhead. There's a very interesting thing, Raviji. You have been introduced by Mr. Rotarian S.S. Kejriwal to Rotary, and I'm introduced to Rotary by his son, Kishan Kejriwal.
Oh, that's a wonderful coincidence. Correct.
So I think that's a happy memory that I have of Rotary as well.
Wonderful.
So it's really nice and so such a pleasure to hear. And Prince Raviji has been highlighting and the learning that and the example that he shared. Rotary ने जिन बच्चों को through this WINS project, WASH in schools, rural area, remote area में बच्चों को जा करके जो education provide करी, जो training provide करी, आज वो बच्चे उस education को आगे ले जा रहे हैं. Friends, education is not always from the books. Experience of life is the best teacher. And just now Raviji's example that he has shared, कि उन बच्चों को जो Rotary ने जिनको train किया, आज वो खाली educated ही नहीं है, उस education को वो आगे भी लेके जा रहे हैं, which is going to be a one step in the nation building, and the nation's character building is going to be a big step forward. Raviji, lot of things to learn from you. I'm very sorry that we got that internet disrupted, but then uski wajah se we got a little more time and we got into the second phase of our interaction. Lovely things to hear from you, lots to learn. I would like at this point of time, two things before we end the day's broadcast. Message for parents, teachers, youth, and employment seeker.
That's a vast area, No, what I would just like to say by conclusion, is books are very good. And we must keep ourselves always updated and educated, number one. But we must also take life as an education. We must see the lives of others. We must see the success stories. We must also see the people who are in different strata. Just being educated in high elite schools and losing the track of villages or the people or the needs at different levels, I think is an incomplete education. So it must be a holistic thing. And to the youth, I can only say that once you graduate and you think that you know all is absolutely wrong. You keep learning as you go on. Many times you will say, hey, I know more. I'm more educated. I have more degrees, or I have read in the best college and you are in a second best college or something. It's not true, because the concepts, the learning, the perception, and then utilization of that for the benefit of society, community, your profession, your industry is totally a different thing. And learning doesn't end with college. The learning begins after college. Let me tell you, all those physics and theories and everything are very good because they set the fundamentals and the basis that is needed. But what you take the points from there and how you teach yourself, and then how you completely, continue to learn, read, analyze, and understand is what is education. Education is unending. It doesn't stop with school. It doesn't end with college. I think you get the base, and then it begins when your life starts.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Friends, education never ends. With your college, your education doesn't end. Rather, when your college ends, your education begins, because what you do with the information acquired begins after you pass out from the college, and that is where you have your learning's next phase beginning. Thank you so much for all the lessons and learning, Raviji. We and our viewers have got a lot of insight into your life and times. I think a lot of motivation they are going to get, which will help them to be optimistic, positive, and recharge themselves with optimism and vision to face life and face current situation. Thank you so much for being part
Thank
of
you.
our
Thank you, Amitabh. It was wonderful interacting with you.
Thank you. You were watching Ed Talks with Amitabh, and as promised, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Today was an exception because our last broadcast, because of the cyclone, got disrupted, and we had our broadcast today on Sunday. We are committed on Monday, Wednesday, Friday in this till the end of the 4th phase of lockdown, that is end of this month. And after that, our frequency will be reviewed. We may go back to our normal earlier frequency for our broadcast. In the same, we have brought you with the people and the professionals from all across the country. We got people from Bombay, Calcutta, Lucknow, Varanasi, Hyderabad, Bangalore. We took you outside the country. We got the resource to connect with you from Abu Dhabi. We have been taking you to, we took you to Nawabon ka शहर Lucknow. And I think अब वक्त आ गया है थोड़ा सा दिशा बदलने का, और हम लोग चलेंगे कल 25th Monday 4 p.m. and we are going to have a professional who has a challenging life, early years of life, faced a lot of ups and downs, a young woman who has created an enterprise and created a niche for herself. और हम चलेंगे बहुत ही lively मिट्टी में देश की, जहाँ से सोंधी सोंधी खुशबू की बातें हम लोग करते हैं, जहाँ की मक्के दी रोटी और सरसों का साग बड़ा मशहूर रहता है। मैं बात कर रहा हूँ पंजाब में, हम लेके चलेंगे आपको ऐसे ही रिसोर्स पर्सन से मिलाएंगे फ्रॉम लुधियाना। We are going to have Mrs. Ruchika Arora, who is an entrepreneur in her own right, owner and the director of Chirrups, the preschool chain of schools. The managing director of this chain of schools will be part of our Ed Talks with Amitabh tomorrow 4 p.m. Stay tuned and keep watching Ed Talks with Amitabh only on the School Times, Facebook and YouTube live, others broadcasts being posted. Thank you so much. God bless. Take care. Thank you so much, Raviji, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.